There was once a shepherd, and he was guiding his sheep from the pasture with the brown grass to the pasture with the green grass. And you can imagine that the sheep were all very excited about this arrangement. And as he was passing under a bridge with the whole flock beside him, his eye caught a white bone in the soil. And he picked it up, and being a responsible shepherd, he took it to the hillside and he bored holes into it, and he made it into a flute. And he spent a very happy afternoon playing that flute, playing it to the sky, playing it to the wind, and of course, playing it to the green grass so that his sheep might be well fed and produce fine, fresh milk. After many hours of playing, however, that bone started to sing. And it said, dear shepherd, I've got a story to tell you." And the shepherd stopped playing and said, "Well, what is it?" And the bone said, "Well, here we go. You may remember, shepherd, that once this land was not so calm and beautiful as it is now, that this land was once severely under threat, and that a great boar, a giant pig, was roaming the land, and the people cowered in their houses, and the crops were decimated, and there was nothing for people to eat, and the people were very, very hungry. And the king called his councillors around and said, "What shall we do? There is a pig threatening our land. The people are hungry in their houses. What shall we do?" And the councillors said, "We must make an offering to this beast. Something of that magnitude will only be sated by an offering." They said, "What king is the most precious thing to you in your kingdom? Give him that. This much is at stake. We must give him our most precious thing." And the king knew that his most precious thing was his daughter, but he dare not say it. He said, "I'm not willing to give what you ask, but what I will do is I will send out a message to all the people of this land that if they can kill the pig that's decimating our crops and harming our people, I will offer my daughter's hand in marriage." The councillors agreed to this, and one last hope, and the message was sent out. Now the young men of the land heard this note, and they were thrilled. They immediately went into training. They started to do gatherings, and they had collectives, and they got together and started making plans. They got into, learning the latest practices of pig killing, spear throwing, trap building, all the things that you could think of. And this message also reached the ears of 3 brothers. Now, they were, each of them, skilled pig hunters. So they were pretty relaxed about how to kill a pig. And so they went to the tavern to drink, and toasting the fame and the fortune that they would win the next day. They were pretty confident. I'm talking, of course, about the 2 older brothers, because the younger brother, as he so often does, had different ideas. While the 2 older brothers were drinking and toasting their fame and fortune, the success of the next day, younger brother snuck outside and he built a very big trap. He was well versed in hunting rabbits, you see, as well. And he built a giant pig-sized version of a lasso. And he lay a trap, and sure enough, the pig came running through that night, and it got its legs candled up, and there it was struck up by the branch. And he went and he told his brothers excitedly what he had done. And the brothers came out, bleary-eyed and drunken, staring into the dark, and they saw the pig hanging there. And their impulse was first to give their brother a good pat on the back, and then it was to cut his head off. And they buried me here, sang the bone, under that bridge where you found me. And then they went off and they took the pig and they claimed that princess for their own. And now they're the princes of this land and they'll inherit this kingdom. Unless, dear shepherd, will you speak for me? And so shepherd took that bone and he went up to the palace gates, and at every request he said, I must speak with the king. They could see that he was a man of dignity and he was sincere, and so they admitted him to see the king. And he spoke to the king and said, Your Majesty, I believe a great betrayal has occurred, for those two men you see beside you have deceived you, and the oldest one has married your daughter. But I tell you now that those two have lied. And the one that's you're married to your daughter and his brother killed in order that they could win fame and fortune. They were so willing to find fame that they killed in order that they could marry your daughter. And the king turned to the two brothers and said, Is this true? And the brothers didn't say a word, but ran off. I wonder, after hearing this, you wonder, what good does justice do? What does it do to a country when people speak the truth, when they listen to the language and the songs of the bones, and they're willing to speak what they hear? What good does it do? What good does it do? As for the princess, there's no record of the steps she next took. We might imagine that she inherited the kingdom, but as to whether she married again, the story does not say. That's my story, and now it's handed over to you. And the question is, where will you take it? How will you keep it? How would you like to carry it forward? Thank you.